So originally I wasn't actually going to cover the story. Despite me oftentimes covering Bethesda related games, Doom is actually something I've never covered on this channel. But if you've been paying attention to the news over the past few days, you probably read that Doom got itself into a little bit of trouble with Bethesda. There's been some controversies over the re-released versions of the original 3 Doom games, and just all around a lot of backlash over what seems at first glance to just be a positive announcement. Naturally, controversy and Bethesda is nothing really new, but one of the main reasons I actually wanted to talk about this is there's actually a lot of misinformation and even some misleading statements going on around this. So in this video, what I want to do is talk about why so many people are pissed off at Bethesda and Doom, why some of it is definitely justified, and why some of it is a little bit misled. So if you guys have been paying attention, you'll know that it is currently Quakecon 2019. I actually made several videos talking about what they showed in the Fallout 76 panel, if you want to check that out. Actually, a lot of cool stuff, especially if you like the dialogue choices of Fallout 3 and a more single-player focus, which is actually coming to Fallout 76. But during this convention, Bethesda also announced that the 3 OG Doom games, that with Doom 1, 2, and 3 are coming to next-gen consoles, that with the Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. And even further, with these, they actually did one of those particularly cool, hey, we're announcing it and you could download it like right now. Although there was a fee associated with this, on the Switch it was $5, and then $10 for Doom 3, but on Xbox One and PS4 you could probably find them discounted. There's been a lot of sales going on with these games. So that's fun. Some OG Doom games, people definitely are more than happy to spend $1.60 on some nostalgia, except it came with a little bit of a caveat, as Nintendo Switch users pretty quickly realized that to play any of the older games, you have to log into a Bethesda.net account. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. If you weren't connected to the internet and thus couldn't reach the login servers, you couldn't play the game. This is pretty common. You might be like, well, what's the big deal? A lot of games require this in 2019. Well, not a lot of games that are on the Nintendo Switch, a totally mobile device, and until Wi-Fi is available literally everywhere, that's kind of a problem. So following this news and the backlash, Bethesda was pretty quick to actually issue a statement around this. They mentioned how originally the reason they wanted this to be included was so you could actually get rewards from Slayers Club. Bethesda describes Slayers Club as the official Doom fan club, but as you participate in some of these things associated with it, you earn points and can eventually get some decent rewards. But also with this update, they mentioned that yes, the login should be optional, so if you want to get those rewards and you happen to be connected to Wi-Fi, cool, and they are working on a fix in the future. That was tweeted out yesterday. As of right now, there still isn't a fix, but to me, the real astonishing part of this story is how does this possibly happen? Like, did literally nobody play this game in a realistic setting at Bethesda before releasing it? It seems like most people pretty quickly would realize, hey, I can't play this all the places I typically can play Nintendo Switch games. A lot of people use it in the car, on the train, places that you typically don't have Wi-Fi. And even though it is relatively small, hopefully just a couple of days after release it will be resolved, I feel like it really does speak, at least to some degree, about the larger Bethesda quality assurance cycle. A lot of recent Bethesda titles have been releasing with issues, and this is just another one that kind of left me scratching my head. How did they not notice this fairly fundamental flaw with a mobile title? And just as an aside, something I didn't even talk about was adding DRM to a 26-year-old game. Like, did we really need to do that? So at least in my eyes, the backlash around that one is pretty much justified, and I think definitely played a role in Bethesda changing the way this is handled. But that actually wasn't it. Who knew releasing 3 Doom games could cause so much backlash? Outside of the Nintendo Switch version issues, also on Xbox One, pretty soon after these new Doom games went up for sale, these 3 re-released Doom games were removed from the Xbox backwards compatibility program. If you're not familiar, basically the way Xbox backwards compatibility works is, if I own one of the games in the program, I can play it on my Xbox One. One method is if I own, let's say, the original Doom disc, I could put it in my Xbox One and it will play it after installing something. Or alternatively, where this is much more of an issue in this case, if you bought the games digitally, which many people are doing, like let's say you just wanted to play Doom on your Xbox One, you could buy the Xbox 360 version digitally and then you'll have access to it on your Xbox One. But with these games re-release, if you bought them digitally, they are removed from the backwards compatibility catalog. So a lot of people initially thought this meant that even if you had purchased a digital copy of Doom 1 or 2 for Xbox 360, that you could no longer download it on your Xbox One because it was no longer backwards compatible. That was in fact not true. What actually happened here was, seemingly Bethesda removed the backwards compatibility side of these 2 Doom games, because now they're re-released, so you could just go on the official Xbox One store rather than having to get the Xbox 360 version. But typically when you have backwards compatible games, you just go to this list called Ready to Install. That being being all the games you own but don't currently have installed, and they would pop up there because you own them. But since they were no longer available via backwards compatibility, they no longer appeared here, and people thought, oh, that means I have to rebuy them to gain access. This isn't totally true, and in fact, if you actually go to the Doom 1 or 2 clubs, it'll show that you still own the game and you can install it from that. Bethesda told IGN that them not being on your ready to install list was a bug, and since then an update has been posted to actually resolve this. But at least in the hours following this update going live, I haven't found a way to actually purchase these games in the backwards compatibility method, which in a moment you'll see why that actually kind of matters. You can download the demo, there's some other things on the Xbox store, and even though you could purchase other backwards compatibility games this way, I can no longer purchase any of the 3 Dooms. So seemingly all this update actually did was restore the ability for people who already purchased these games. So with this story, it's a frustrating and stupid move from Bethesda, but not nearly as malicious as a lot of people initially thought. If you already own Doom 1 and 2, you don't have to rebuy it in order to play it. But wait, there's actually more somehow. Fortunately, those first 2 things I talked about were bugs. They were mess-ups by Bethesda that they are now resolving. And hopefully in the next few days, all of it will be fine and dandy and everyone will be happy again. But one thing that isn't seemingly getting resolved in the next few days is online play, which although available on the backwards compatibility versions, is not available on the re-released versions. This applies to both Doom 1 and 2. Again, if you have the backwards compatibility version or just own an Xbox 360 disc variant of either, you can play it online. But if you buy the new one off the Xbox One store, you can't play it online. Doom 2 on Xbox 360 also launched with this expansion pack that was actually a console exclusive. That's just gone. All the content from that is seemingly not applicable with the new re-released version. But again, if you own the old one, you can get that. As of right now, Bethesda hasn't responded to the complaints about no more online play or some of these other missing features. The new versions do come with several additional features, so you could actually play native split screen in some of the OG games, but for me at least, if my options are online play or split screen, I pretty much always take online play. Either way, it just seems like one of those situations that really shouldn't have occurred. It seems like several minor mistakes from Bethesda, but when you have so many minor mistakes in even just a 365-day period, they start to add up and people start to notice. Either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully this gives you a much better idea of what's going on with this recent Doom controversy and all the various aspects of it. But with that, I thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.